All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people out there just like you and just like me. So, I'm going to be talking about Heart. So, for those of you who want the music content, want me to stay in my musical lane here, I'm going to do that. Before I get to Heart, here is a band called the Crows, not the Black Crows, not Counting Crows, not Crow, just the Crows. Ready when you are. And this is just great melodic rock. Just go listen to it. You can stream it, you can buy it. Although, this took a little while for me to get once I ordered it. Everything on CD today that's kind of obscure is more difficult. I just ordered this amazing West Coast thing that I posted to Patreon yesterday, and that's coming from Germany. All right, so oh, for people who like CDs, things are a little more difficult these days. Now, if it's something super mainstream, like you can walk into Cracker Barrel, right, and get the Dolly Parton Rockstar CD, the diva known as Dolly. All right. So, speaking of divas, Ann Wilson, she's talking about how it was really emotional. She says emotional hardship doomed the original Heart lineup. Now, I don't talk too much about the original Heart lineup, um, but there are people who just are still wanting that lineup. I think everybody's still alive, right? I'm pretty sure. I may be wrong. I hope that everybody's still alive. Um, but she says the group was doomed by emotional hardship. We couldn't get along anymore, and things got really difficult. She was doing a podcast somewhere where she said all this stuff. Um, though the band had cycled through several musicians, they settled on a lineup in 1973. Around the same time, they decided to name their band Heart. In addition to Ann Wilson and her sister, the band recruited guitarist Roger Fisher, great guitarist, by the way, bassist Steve Fossen, drummer Michael DeRozier, and keyboardist Howard Leese. That's the lineup that everybody loves. Heart achieved multi-platinum success with their first four albums, but things began falling apart. And guess why they started falling apart? Probably toxic masculinity here. This what I'm reading into this. When you listen to Ann Wilson, there's always like a thread of this feminism, woe is me. I mean, she's achieved great things, Ann Wilson. And I understand she probably paved the way for a lot of other people in the industry. Pat Benatar talks this way as well. I think they forgot about Janis Joplin, but that's just a side note here. Linda Ronstadt, Carly Simon. I mean, there are other women out there who weren't belly aching all the time. But this is what she said here. It seemed like the thing that made Heart unusual was men and women working together as equals, but that was breaking down. So I guess that's what broke it all up. And that was the thing. She goes on to say that was driving us apart. We would just squabble, write down gender lines. It would just be really difficult. The men gossiping about the girls and the girls gossiping about the men. Well, okay. Well, gossip is bad on either side. Um, men tend to hang with men and women tend to hang with women. I think that's kind of just a natural thing. I don't know. Once it gets too incestuous, it becomes Fleetwood Mac, right? Where everybody is doing more than they should with each other, right? Apparently that didn't happen in Heart, and that's what broke them up. She also talked about jealousy as a factor, acknowledging that the overwhelming attention that was heaped on the Wilson sisters hurt the men's feelings and made them angry. This is one where you really need to get the other side of the story. I'm sorry. This to me sounds like a constructed narrative. And she goes on to say there was also the matter of extracurricular activities on the road. It didn't help that Nancy and I never looked fondly on the whole world of groupies. Having to explain to the band wives, meaning, the guys in the band apparently were married. No, nothing goes on out there, Lie to them all the time. It's just got to be weird. And okay, so maybe she has a little bit of a point there. She could probably have just opted out of that conversation, but I guess, hey, do you think anything's going on? I mean, look, here's the deal, and I'm not excusing any of this, but the women getting married to these guys, right? They've got to think that this is going to be an overwhelming temptation where, the women are just throwing themselves. And again, that was a bad thing in general. And I applaud Ann and Nancy here for taking this principled stand, but I don't know if any of that should have broken the band up. Keep in mind that the band had struggled for many years after that lineup went away. And they really, again, I think the main reason Hart was able to kind of just restart was they had great songs and they had a great producer, Ron Nevison. And it took them several tries before they got going again. I mean, just listen to Private Audition and tell me that's not one of the worst rock albums. I don't know. It's just not a good album. And I like Ann and I like Nancy and I like their whole, just their aura, their ethos, to use a word that I typically don't use. But that original lineup, though, was just hitting on all cylinders. Ann Wilson goes on to say, I go into every new iteration of the band totally optimistic because the world is full of good people. And just because you play out your relationship with some people doesn't mean you don't have one with others. Now, here's something interesting, though. Maybe these guys, after all these years, have grown out of all of the, idiosyncratic things that you didn't like about them. Like people change over the years, right? And you could probably talk to them again and say, hey, guys, let's try that lineup again. I think people would be really stoked to have you guys back out there. Now, it's probably never going to happen, but again, this is weird how some people are able to overcome relationship issues, especially in a working relationship where people get older. I'm sure they're not going to be into groupies anymore. I mean, the way this is all arranged now is the sisters probably don't spend a lot of time together, right? Everyone's got a separate dressing room, a separate bus, in some cases, a separate airplane. Even if you were confined to a bus or an airplane, you don't have to sit near one another. This is the thing. You don't have to deal with each other. And so it becomes more of just like a business, and nobody's going to be upset that you don't have great chemistry when you're not on stage. What they're most concerned about is, are you good on stage? And that original lineup, I mean, there are people that just love that original lineup. I was never really that into knowing all the names in Heart when it came to the guys, and I could see maybe that's why they got jealous, right? It was the Ann and Nancy show. And rather than throwing, the feminist card out there, they should have been like, hey, that's pretty cool that people paid more attention to us than those guys. And I can kind of see why they would get a little bit upset. But it's attributed here to maybe toxic masculinity. The guys would gossip about them, and then groupies would show up, and we'd have to tell their wives about the groupies. And this is definitely a narrative. And, if any of the original Heart guys, if you guys were to see this video and you wanted to come on and talk to me about, your side of the story, I think that would be a really good interview, a good video to do. And I'm sure other people have put videos out with whoever, and they've talked about their side of the story. Or who knows, maybe legally they can't. I don't know. You sign contracts on your way out to say, nope, can't talk about this situation. Just leave. You'll get your little golden parachute, and then that'll be the end of your tenure with the band. Thank you very much for your hard work and service. So anyway, thanks to Ron Nevison and some great songwriting during the 1980s, Heart was able to reboot, but they weren't really the same for a number of years. And people would say, yeah, even during the 80s, I love that stuff, but their 70s stuff. And I always say, if you go out on the road, do the 70s. And they do. They should do as many of those as they can. All right. So that's my video on toxic masculinity, Ann Wilson and the band Heart. I feel bad for those guys because people really, for the most part, have forgotten about that original lineup. And it's nice that their names get a little bit of recognition because they were the best. Anyway, here are the Crows. If you want some cool music to listen to, you don't have enough in your collection, you want to move forward. This came out this year. I know a lot of people tell me, Dave, I really don't care. I don't care. I play all my old stuff and I collect more of the old stuff, or I have this giant folder. I hear this a lot. I just put songs in that folder and it just gets bigger and bigger. People have their own private radio stations. It's cool. I think that's a cool thing to do. But as you could see, I collect a few of these coasters so I can use them in videos. And you can use it as a coaster, or you can, if you still have a CD player in your car or maybe in your house. I had one guy tell me, I don't have a CD player. I got rid of that years ago. So I'm like, okay, then. So don't buy the CD. Download it, stream it, whatever you need to do. I want to thank everybody for watching and putting up with this channel. I'm sorry that my content varies from serious things to just music-oriented stuff, which, quite honestly, is more for just entertainment purposes, more than information that you need in order to possibly survive and live another 10, 20, 30 years. I find that other stuff is very important. So hence, I can talk about pretty much anything I want to on this channel. The name is not meant to bait and switch, but if you do stumble upon one of my other videos about other topics, again, it's just what I do. And you can pick and choose which videos you like, and don't watch the stuff that you don't like, I guess. That's all I can tell you. If you want to support the channel, Patreon, YouTube memberships, buy me a coffee, which somebody bought me like 20 coffees on Monday. It was shocking. I was very caffeinated, and I said, I don't need 20, but thank you for the 20. I guess, yeah, you can buy multiple coffees if you want to, and I should probably drink them slowly over a period of time rather than just guzzling, a big jug of coffee. So anyway, folks, God bless everyone. Please pray for peace in the Middle East and around the world and on college campuses and wherever peace needs to be prayed for. Peace in your own heart, especially, not the band Heart. Well, peace with the band Heart too, right? We want Ann and Nancy getting along with the current lineup. Yeah, so there you go. The video just went full circle right back to the original topic. Talk to you soon.